I hadn't heard his voice in 15 years. And when I finally did, it wasn't, "Hey, how've you been?" or "I miss you." It was, "Mom's dying." Just like that. No warning. No softness. Just a sentence that cracked something open in me I didn't even know was still alive. I'm not going to share my name. I don't think I could, even if I wanted to. I'm 38 now. I live alone in a small apartment above a bakery that opens too early and smells like burnt sugar. I work nights at a hospital, mostly paperwork. I don't talk to many people. I don't really let anyone in. It wasn't always like this. I used to be the loud one. The funny one. The one who made everyone laugh at Thanksgiving, even when the turkey was dry and Dad was drunk. But something happened. Or maybe a lot of things happened. And I guess that's what this is about. Because when my brother called me out of nowhere and said those words, "Mom's dying," it wasn't just about her. It was about everything we never said. Everything we buried. Everything we ran from. I hadn't seen Josh since I was 23. We were close once. Real close. He was 2 years older, but we were like twins in spirit. We built forts in the woods behind our house, made up secret languages, swore we'd never let anyone come between us. But people do. And they did. Our dad was complicated. He had this way of making you feel like you were the problem, even when you were just a kid trying to exist. He'd yell at Josh for being soft, for crying when he scraped his knee. He'd yell at me for talking back, when all I did was ask why he was mad. Mom tried to protect us. She'd step in, calm him down, take us to our rooms and whisper, "It's not your fault." But she was scared too. I saw it in her eyes. She'd flinch when he raised his voice. She'd clean obsessively when he was out drinking, like if the house was perfect, maybe he wouldn't explode. Josh started pulling away around 16. He got quiet. Angry. He'd disappear for hours, come back smelling like smoke and sweat. I didn't ask. I was scared of the answers. Then one night, everything changed. It was summer. I remember the heat, thick and heavy, like the air didn't want to move. Dad came home late. Drunk. Josh was in the kitchen, eating cereal straight from the box. Dad said something, I don't even remember what. Josh snapped. He threw the box across the room, milk splattering everywhere. He screamed, "I'm not scared of you anymore." And Dad hit him. Hard. Right across the face. I remember the sound. Like a slap and a crack and a scream all at once. I ran in, tried to pull them apart. Mom was crying. Josh was bleeding. And Dad just stood there, breathing heavy, like he didn't know what he'd done. Josh left that night. Packed a bag, walked out the door, didn't look back. I begged him to stay. I said, "Please, Josh. Don't leave me here." He looked me dead in the eyes and said, "You'll be better off without me." I didn't see him again for 15 years. Until the phone rang. And I heard his voice. I didn't say anything at first. Just held the phone to my ear, listening to his breathing. It was shaky. Uneven. Like he'd been crying. Or trying not to. "Did you hear me?" he said. I swallowed. My throat felt like sandpaper. "Yeah," I whispered. "I heard you. She's in hospice," he said. Stage 4. Liver failure. They're saying days. Maybe a week. I couldn't breathe. I didn't even know she was sick. I hadn't talked to her in over a decade. Not because I didn't want to. But because I didn't know how. After Josh left, everything fell apart. Dad got worse. Mom got quieter. And I just shut down. I moved out at 25, cut ties with everyone. Changed my number. Started over. Or tried to. But you can't really start over when the past is still living inside you. I thought you should know, Josh said. His voice cracked on the word, no. I wanted to ask him why he was calling now. Why he waited so long. Why he left me behind. But all I said was, where is she? He gave me the address. It was only 2 hours away. I could have driven there that night. But I didn't. I sat on my couch, staring at the wall, replaying everything. The fights. The silence. The way Mom used to hum when she folded laundry. The way she'd kiss my forehead when I had nightmares. The way she looked at me the last time I saw her, like she wanted to say something but couldn't. I didn't sleep that night. I just kept thinking, what do you say to someone who's dying? What do you say to someone you abandoned? What do you say to your brother, who you loved more than anyone, but who you let disappear? I drove out the next morning. The hospice was quiet. Too quiet. The kind of quiet that feels like it's waiting for something to end. Josh met me at the entrance. I almost didn't recognize him. He looked older. Tired. His hair was grayer than I remembered. His eyes were the same, though. Still sharp. Still sad. We didn't hug. We just stood there. Then he said, she's in room 12. I followed him down the hallway. The walls were pale blue. The kind of color that's supposed to be calming but just feels cold. When we got to the door, he stopped. She's sleeping, he said. But she wakes up sometimes. She knows you're coming. I looked at him. You told her? He nodded. She cried. I felt something inside me just break. I walked in. She was lying in bed, thin and pale, her hair pulled back in a loose braid. She looked so small. So fragile. I sat down beside her. Her eyes fluttered open. And for a moment, she just stared at me. Then she whispered, my baby. I couldn't speak. I just took her hand. It was cold. But she squeezed mine. And I started to cry. Not loud. Not messy. Just quiet tears that wouldn't stop. She smiled. Even then. Even dying. She smiled at me. And I hated myself for staying away so long. She didn't say much that day. Just held my hand and looked at me like I was something precious. Like I hadn't disappeared. Like I hadn't broken her heart. Josh sat in the corner, watching us. I could feel the weight between us, years of silence, of blame, of things unsaid. But in that room, with Mom fading in front of us, it felt suspended. Like we were kids again. Just two scared kids trying to hold on to something. I stayed the night. Josh did too. We took turns sitting with her, reading old books she used to love. She'd drift in and out, sometimes whispering things that didn't make sense. Sometimes calling our names. Once, she said, tell him I forgive him. I didn't know who she meant. Josh looked away. Neither of us asked. The next morning, she was worse. Her breathing was shallow. Her skin looked almost translucent. The nurse said it wouldn't be long. Josh and I sat on either side of her bed. I reached out and touched his arm. He flinched. But he didn't pull away. I missed you, I said. He didn't answer. Just stared at Mom. Then, after a long pause, he said, I thought you hated me. I shook my head. I hated that you left. I hated that you didn't take me with you. He looked at me then. Really looked. And I saw it, the guilt, the pain, the years of wondering. "I thought you'd be safer without me," he said. "I wasn't," I whispered. We didn't talk much after that. Just sat with her. Held her hands. Listened to the machine's beep. And then, around 3:17 p.m., she exhaled. One long breath. And didn't inhale again. I felt it. That moment. When the world shifted. When something left the room. Josh stood up. Walked to the window. I stayed beside her, holding her hand until it went limp. I said, almost whispering, "I'm sorry, Mom." And I meant it. For everything. The funeral was small. Just a few neighbors, some distant cousins. Josh gave a speech. I couldn't. I just sat in the front row, staring at the casket, thinking about the way she used to sing while cooking. Thinking about the way she braided my hair when I was little. Thinking about how I never said goodbye. After the service, Josh and I went back to her house. It hadn't changed much. Same faded wallpaper. Same creaky stairs. Same smell, lavender and dust. We walked through the rooms like ghosts. In the kitchen, he opened a drawer and pulled out a photo. It was the three of us. Me, him, and Mom. I was maybe 10. Josh had his arm around me. Mom was laughing. I stared at it for a long time. Then I said, "Do you remember the fort we built in the woods?" He smiled. "Yeah. You made me decorate it with glitter." I laughed. First time in a long time. It felt strange. But good. We sat on the porch that night, drinking cheap beer and watching the stars. Josh said, "I don't know what happens now." I nodded. Me neither. Then he said, "Maybe we try." I looked at him. Try what? Being brothers again. I didn't answer right away. Just stared at the sky. Then I said, "Okay." And in that moment, I knew, nothing would ever be the same. But maybe that was okay. A week passed. Josh stayed in town longer than I expected. We cleaned out Mom's house together. Box by box. Room by room. Each drawer was a time capsule. Old letters. Receipts from the 90s. A birthday card I made her in 2nd grade, glitter still clinging to the edges. We didn't talk much while we worked. But the silence felt different now. Not heavy. Just, shared. One afternoon, I found her journal. Leather-bound. Worn at the edges. I hesitated before opening it. Josh was in the living room, sorting through photo albums. I sat on her bed and flipped to the first page. March 3rd, Josh left today. I told him to go. I told him it was time. But God, it hurt. I hope he forgives me one day. I kept reading. She wrote about me, too. About how I stopped smiling after Josh left. About how she tried to hold us both together, even when we were falling apart. There were pages stained with tears. Pages filled with hope. And one entry that stopped me cold. If they ever read this, I want them to know, I did my best. I loved them more than anything. And I'm sorry for the things I couldn't fix. I closed the journal. Held it to my chest. And cried. Not the quiet kind. The kind that shakes you. That empties you. Josh found me like that. He didn't say anything. Just sat beside me. After a while, I handed him the journal. He read in silence. Then he said, "She really did love us, didn't she?" I nodded. She did. That night, we burned the journal in the backyard. Not out of anger. But as a kind of release. We watched the pages curl and blacken. Watched the smoke rise into the stars. Josh said, "Maybe this is how we start over." I said, "Maybe." And for the first time in years, I felt something close to peace. 2 months later, I moved back into Mom's house. Not permanently, just for a while. Josh went back to the city, but he called more often now. Sometimes we'd talk for hours. Sometimes just a few minutes. But it was enough. It was something. I started fixing the place up. Repainting the walls. Replacing the broken tiles in the kitchen. It felt like stitching together old memories with new ones. Like honoring her by giving the house a second life. One morning, I found a box in the attic. It was labeled Summer '98. Inside were cassette tapes. Home recordings. I borrowed an old player from the neighbor and sat on the floor, listening. The first tape crackled, then Mom's voice came through. She was singing. Soft, off-key, but beautiful. Then laughter, mine and Josh's. Then her saying, "Okay, okay, settle down. Let's try again." I listened to all of them. Hours of forgotten moments. Picnics. Rainy days. Bedtime stories. It was like she was still here, filling the house with warmth. I called Josh that night. Told him about the tapes. He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "Can you send me one?" I did. And the next day, he called crying. We didn't say much. Just sat in the silence together, miles apart. Weeks passed. I started writing again. Little things, poems, letters I'd never send. One day, I wrote a song. About her. About us. About the way grief can feel like love with nowhere to go. Josh came to visit. We sat in the living room, guitar in my lap. I played the song. He didn't speak when I finished. Just hugged me. Tight. Like he was holding on to something fragile. "I think she'd be proud," he said. I nodded. "I think so too." That night, we walked to the old fort in the woods. It was mostly gone, just a few boards and some glitter still clinging to the bark. We sat there, under the stars. And for the first time, we talked about the future. Not the past. Not the pain. Just the possibility of something new. Spring came early that year. The trees bloomed like they were trying to make up for lost time. The air smelled like beginnings. I planted a garden in Mom's backyard, tomatoes, lavender, sunflowers. She always loved sunflowers. Said they were stubborn and bright, like me. Josh visited more often. He brought his camera, started taking photos again. Said he hadn't touched it in years. We'd spend afternoons chasing light through the trees, trying to capture something we couldn't name. One day, he showed me a photo he took of me in the garden. I was laughing, dirt on my face, hair tangled in the wind. He said, "You look like her." I didn't know what to say. So I just smiled. We started talking about turning the house into something more. A retreat, maybe. A place for people to come and breathe. To heal. To remember. It felt right. Like we were building something out of the ashes. Not just for us. But for anyone who needed it. We found old blueprints in the basement. Turns out Mom had dreams too. She'd sketched out ideas for a guest house, a studio, even a little library. Josh laughed. She was planning a whole empire. I said, "Guess we're just catching up." We started small. Painted the porch. Hung wind chimes. Put up a sign by the gate, "Welcome. You're safe here." People started coming. Neighbors. Old friends. Strangers who'd heard about the place. They'd sit on the porch, drink tea, tell stories. Some cried. Some laughed. Some just sat in silence. And every time, I felt her there. In the breeze. In the warmth. In the way people softened when they stepped through the gate. Josh and I didn't fix everything. We still had bad days. Still stumbled over old wounds. But we kept showing up. Kept trying. One evening, as the sun dipped low, he said, "Do you think she knew we'd end up here?" I looked around, at the garden, the porch, the people. At him. And said, "I think she hoped. And maybe that's enough."